Right. So normally we would close the segment out on that one, but this week, Carl, we have Backlash, which fortunately for us is a short pay-per-view. And I say fortunately, not because we want short pay-per-views, because it's getting late. So we, for starters, I'll mention we had Apollo versus Andrade, which was, I want to say pre-show. It was the opening show. That was weird. I didn't think it'd give the title much respect. I found that really kind of weird. You know, when you've got like Jeff and Sheamus and you think, well, that really should, it's a feud not based on really anything. That could have been an opener. But no, we open with Apollo and Andrade. And luckily, Apollo took the win on that one, Carl. So we're still seeing that title run. So I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, obviously they had Kevin Owens as being like the neutralizer. He was, there to prevent any shenanigans and stuff. Where, are we going to eventually get Apollo Owens? Is it going to be a face-face? Is it going to be Owens?
I still really want to see it. It was a really good match. The couple of minutes we had of it, I hope we get to that point when it's like we've dealt with all the stupidity. Let's have this match. But again, it did what it needed to do. Apollo looked good. He took the win as he should. And it furthers this title run. He's already surpassed Zack Ryder in the length of title run. So that's a win.
Well, yeah.
But do you have much to say on this match? It was good, passable.
Yeah, it was fine. I think to your point, to have this as being like almost like the intro match, where it's not like the number one slot at like Mania, where it's like this is the thing to kick off the show. It was just like we'll just get this one out the way first. I think it was effectively the pre-show, wasn't it? So
yeah.
I don't know.
It's such a short card, really, that I don't know if it was technically a pre-show, but it was, like you say, it was effectively the pre-show.
I think there's two matches which we'll get on to, if you can call them matches, at least one of them, that are the result of this being a short card. But yeah, we'll talk about that.
We shall. So we follow this match with the women's tag triple threat match. I have a bit of a bias towards this match because I did not want Banks and Bayley to have the titles anyway. And for those who aren't aware of the results, Banks and Bayley retain the titles. They take the win. But I don't know, like, this is even been cited as like, this is good for the women's tag division, but I just don't see how it is. It just weakens the whole thing. I don't know. It was an okay match, but I'm still resentful of the fact that the titles moved over to Banks and Bayley just for them to go into a triple threat with Alexa. Like, why not even keep it long enough for that Alexa and Nikki were the ones who went into this match with the belts?
Yeah, I think it doesn't really make all the sense in the world of why they did that title change, and I think part of that made me think, well, they weren't serious about having them drop the titles of this stuff at this stage anyway. So it just kind of felt like, well, this was a nothing match because they obviously weren't going to lose them because they just won them. But it was like, where were they going with this? Why, if this would have been the time where they beat them for the titles, then would have made sense. But the fact that they'd only just beaten them, it kind of just derailed the whole, gravitas of this match.
Yeah, or we would have had the other annoying result that they lost them straight away as well to either the Iconics or Bliss and Cross, and then you're like, well, what was the fucking point in that? So there was just no way of appeasing me with this. It was always going to be like, what the fuck? But again, as a match itself, it wasn't bad. I was just a bit annoyed with the whole way it was set up, really, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think they've like slowed down massively on the whole Banks and Bayley kind of turn thing. So I don't even know why we're meant to feel compelled.
Yeah, exactly.
At this point.
I feel like they've deliberately gone against the audience expectations. They're like, no, we're not going to turn them now just because you won it. Even though that's the inevitable result of something that's been built up over time, to the point Charlotte even overtly pointed it out, and we still haven't had it. Anyway, so that happened. And the next match of the night, Carl, was a very disappointing for me. Jeff versus Sheamus. And the reason it was disappointing is because despite what I said about SmackDown, despite what I said about Jeff showing a bit of offense and looking good, this was fucking one-sided as fuck. So Sheamus took the win, and Sheamus just battered Jeff. I don't know what this did for anyone other than Sheamus, and I thought Jeff was coming back to have another run. It seems like almost as if like they're like, no, you're getting booked really fucking poorly until you retire. You little. I don't know what the aim of this was. There was no redemption for Jeff. He just took a loss and got battered and he just looks like he can't hang with people like Sheamus, which is mad for someone who was previously in the world title scene.
Yeah, just baffling. Like, why make us sit through weeks and weeks of, Jeff Hardy's coming back and Sheamus isn't happy about him coming back and DUI this and frame this to then just have Sheamus batter him? Yeah. What?
to the point that I'm like, are we going to have more of this? Are we going to have Sheamus and Jeff in a cage? Because what was the point in having him lose to this? He's already lost to Sheamus. Right now, even if he has another match with Sheamus and picks up a win, he's still 2-1.
Yeah.
It's useless. I don't know. Didn't enjoy it. Annoyed.
Same.
So then we move on to the women's world title for Raw. I don't even know what you fucking call them anymore. There's so many titles. We have Asuka versus Nia Jax. So obviously we all went into this match with a little bit of fear. But it was a good match. I was not a fan of the screwy finish. For those again who aren't familiar with the screwy finish, it resulted in a double countout. I assume in an attempt to make both parties look strong, but I wasn't a fan of this. I prefer some sort of clean decision. I did not want to see Nia with the title, and they're trying to book her as a monster. So I don't know. I can see why they did what they did, I suppose, but don't make the match if you don't want it to look stupid and you don't want it to win the belt. But Asuka retains, but not on actually winning the match. So I don't know where they're going with this one.
For me, this massively hurt Asuka because, she's already got the caveat of, well, she never won the match or whatever. She actually just got given it by Becky, blah, 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 whatever's going on there. And then since she's won this belt, she's just lost. Like, she lost to Charlotte, I think, twice again now. And,
well, it's like, because you mentioned on the Raw segment that it seemed an odd booking decision then. And then to go to this now, it's even stranger. Like, what is this? Like, this would have been a good time for Asuka to win clean, really.
Well, exactly. Like, she's got no legitimacy at the minute of like being a worthwhile champion, and it's just crazy that they haven't done anything to cement her as that. It's always just like either her losing or like screwy finishes. So for me, I just hated this. Like, Nia's not the one to dethrone her, so just let Asuka look strong. And like, to your point, if you don't want that to be at the cost of Nia, then don't book her against Nia, book her against someone else and have her come off strong.
Exactly. Really strange decision, that one. But I assume, are we continuing with this feud maybe with the double count out? Seems an odd, like, I can't imagine Nia to be, given the character they portrayed her as, she's going to be happy to go, well, yeah, I lost my chance because of numbers. I can imagine she'd just want to have a rematch
like,
of some
unfortunately,
sort.
we've got several more, hours of promos to listen to from Nia.
Yes, I agree. Or it feels like that. Right, so we move on to the next match, which is the Braun Strowman versus Miz and Morrison for the Universal title. Now, before we talk about this match, what was your understanding on how this would work? Because I thought they would have the title no matter who won. Is that is that your understanding?
They explicitly said that. They said they're going to be the first co-champions.
That's what I thought. So the reason I mention it is because this match, right? Because I won't fuck about. We'll talk about the results. Strowman takes the win, as everyone expected, because we were never going to have co-champions. But Strowman takes the win on the back of John Morrison getting the pin and the Miz breaking up that pin in a moment of madness because he didn't want Morrison to be the one who won the title.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't how it worked, was it? Because that was clearly, like you say, that was clearly said that they both said that they'd be co-champions. So why would you stop him? They then suddenly decided that it was like the IC title where whoever got the pin would be the one who got the belt. But with that kind of stipulation, this was essentially a triple threat.
I feel like, they've done a terrible job of actually building up what the rules were and what it meant and stuff like that, which, they've done several times with several different matches. But the only positive I can see potentially coming from this is this the point where we see those guys break up and they actually have a Miz versus Morrison feud and go back to singles runs again, because, they've definitely planted the seed there with that. And it was obviously Morrison who ended up taking the loss. That was
the positive take from it, that it looks like they might be doing something story-wise between those two. But yeah, for me, it was just, I wish we'd be clearer on the stipulation of these handicap matches, because he'd done this with the IC title as well. And then Sammy ended up being the champ because he's only got the pin. And it's like, I thought you were just retaining it together. Weird. I don't know. I wish they'd be clearer on these things. The other note I had for this match, Carl, I don't know how you felt about it, but I certainly felt that this was a strange one for Strowman. Strowman took the win, but like, really, he was outshined by the pair of them, and that isn't a feeling I should have about our Universal Champion.
Yeah, it wasn't his best showing, was it? He was cumbersome. He played the big kind of oaf character, and you kind of felt at one or 2 points in that match of like, actually, I quite prefer Morrison and Miz to be the champions.
Yeah. And it doesn't help that old Johnny Drip Rip is great in the ring, isn't he?
Oh yeah, well fucking hell, he was. That's what baffled me, the fact that he was the one who ate the loss and stuff, and he was the one who, like he was going to be the winner until Miz got involved. So that's what makes me think it's going to be a Miz and Morrison kind of explosion.
So at least there's that, because I have that to look forward to. That would be quite good for SmackDown, I think, assuming that's where they go. Right, so next match of the night, Carl. I don't worry, we're getting near the end, I promise you. We have Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley. Pretty much what you expect of a match, other than the fact that Drew's win kind of felt a bit tainted. Drew retained, which is exactly what I wanted. It was a good match. They're both heavy hitters. They're both big fellas. But basically, Drew took the win on the back of Lana coming out and causing a distraction. For a man who beat Brock Lesnar quickly and clean at WrestleMania, it seems odd that they're booking him in this sort of weak position with Bobby Lashley. Like,
yeah,
he's not
Drew
been.
got battered.
Yeah.
Drew got absolutely battered in that match, and he literally had to. The only way he won was that distraction from Lana. So it was like, well, whoa! Like I know it's kind of it's one of those things where we don't want him to be another Brock, where he's just indestructible and he needs to look, vulnerable and that he could lose his belt at any point. But he got squashed pretty much in this match. Like Lashley battered him.
Yeah.
So
it's the thing, when it feels like that was the only reason he won. This does two things. This means that we're probably going to carry on with Bobby, which I don't want, because I don't find him entertaining, if I'm honest. But it also weakens his position. It's like, well, you just clambered onto your title. You very nearly fucking lost that. And it's puzzling as well, because this is a man who beat Brock Lesnar with ease. So what are we meant to think of Brock? Are we going to go to a Brock versus Bobby Lashley at some point? Because apparently Bobby Lashley is much more powerful.
I mean, to be fair, I would love to see that. Like, if it was built up right. Like,
if they book it off the back of this, and he goes, well, I lasted long, or I give Drew a run for his money, or even I won the title, I'd be fine with it. But I really don't want to see Drew lose the title just yet, and this was worryingly close for me. And I think they're going to carry on a feud between Drew and Bobby, because that was a bit of a screwy finish. That obviously Bobby's going to blame Lana. Another side note for me on that as well, I worry a little bit whether this is going to be another Jericho situation. And we mentioned the other week about Jericho almost sidelining his own sort of unified title run, playing a sort of a bit part in a Stephanie McMahon Triple H storyline. I have a little bit of a fear here that Drew's going to play a bit part in the fucking Lana Bobby Lashley show, even though he's the champ. And it just kind of reminds me of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, see, like it's a very good point, because it seems to be that way. It's not about Drew being the champion and like fending off newcomers and blah blah blah. It's about MVP being the one to get Bobby Lashley out of his funk in spite of his marriage and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely, there's a risk there, I think. But just what a shame to have such a talented guy like Drew be a big part player in some shite love triangle managerial storyline.
Yeah, I'd be hopefully Raw will give us a better indication of what's going on, but I do worry that it's going to be carrying on with this weird love story that Drew's going to play a bit, despite being the champ, he's just going to be involved in for some fucking reason. And then we move on to probably your favorite part of the pay-per-view, Carl. So I mentioned earlier that all these funny little skits with the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders, it's all going to culminate to what is probably going to be a decent match, a fully in the ring, out and out wrestling bout between them, so you can see what they're all capable of. And boy, was I wrong. We get another stupidly weird, sketchy fucking. I think this was meant to be like done in a similar vein to the likes of like the Firefly Funhouse match or the Boneyard.
It was like a cinematic match, wasn't it? Call it a match.
It was a mini movie, but a fucking weird one. So this devolves to a point that it's not a match. Like the titles weren't involved, and they don't ultimately fight each other. It ends. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's off the wall, fucking nuts. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. I'm in the class of people hating it. I'll be honest. But this had like, I keep forgetting his name. Was it Tozawa, Carl?
Yeah, so Akira Tozawa, I don't really even know where he's been like lamenting in the last. I don't know whether he's on 205 Live, whether he's been out injured, whatever.
Or why he cares about these lot at all, for that matter.
Yeah, it was a bit random, wasn't it? Let's be fair. Yeah.
But Akira Tozawa rocks up with a load of motorcycle ninjas for some reason, and it ends up in this weird sort of, as Carl said, cinematic sort of battle in which I think it's been coined as the was it the Viking Prophets I can't, or, you know, Street Vikings. I don't know, but they've amount, you know, they're all nice little unity. They've all developed this lovely little friendship. Isn't that nice? But yet this was just like a weird cinematic mess before the greatest match ever. I'm assuming you loved it, Carl, because you love everything they do.
Oh, I hated this so bad. So bad. Like, just when you thought they couldn't fuck up any worse. What is this? It went on for ages as well. And it was like,
Oh yeah,
you got these weird little octopus tentacle thing monsters. Okay, you've got the ability for fucking, what's his name? Ivar to summon a fucking
oh yeah.
turkey leg.
They referenced Thor in a sense, didn't they?
Yeah, and it was just
And
like,
turkey legs again. Why is that such a thing?
like, honestly, it's what a waste of time. Like, I don't care about either tag team. Neither of them are funny. Neither of them are entertaining. We've had weeks and weeks of these little, you know, competitions and trying to settle the score, whatever. And as you said, you think you're finally going to have it culminate in a match that would make sense. No, they have this weird little cinematic fuckfest of a bizarre, like, act of fucking crazy events. And it's just like, well, okay, but what next? Like, it's still not done. So, are we ever going to see them fight, or are we just going to see more? Like, is it going to be the fucking the octopus and his tag team partner Akira Tozawa taking on the rest of them now? I honestly don't know.
Yeah,
But yeah, fucking
it's
hell.
such a weird mess, and yeah, they don't seem to care about the tag titles at all. Like
Nope.
anyone.
Nope.
I don't recall seeing the Profits wearing them. Actually, I'm sure they
That's
did
a
at
very
some
good
point.
point. I've been too busy with the red cups and the bandanas. I don't know if they even have them on.
But yeah, all in all, if you want to see something totally just like an absolute mindfuck, watch it. But it wasn't for me. It was no Firefly Funhouse where it sort of messes with you, but in a really good way. You know, like that was trippy as fuck, but like really well done as well. This was just a mess.
Yeah.
So then we move on, Carl, to the greatest wrestling match ever. Now, I will start by saying stupid tagline, oversold. I think we failed to mention, I'll mention it in SmackDown, they hyped it up that much that in Carl's favourite match ever, the match that made him rate SmackDown this week 5 out of 5, fucking nutter, they actually threw an advert in there, didn't they, Carl? You got to see a
the
nice
audacity of it.
You're actually watching what you consider the greatest match of the week, and they put that little fucking sticker on the bottom of the screen, don't they, Carl?
Like, are they messing? Like, really? Like, fucking hell. You've got a legitimate match of the year candidate, and you're there trying to fucking hype us up against Edge and Randy Orton, which is never going to be a wrestling clinic. The greatest match ever. What? Like,
yeah. And
you
said
shit before, just setting yourself up to fail.
Exactly. And anyone who's listening, I shit you not, I knew the minute Carl had watched SmackDown because that was the first thing he fucking said to me.
I was a little bit fuming, just a little bit.
But that being said, Carl, I don't know what your feelings are on it because we've not actually conferred. This was actually a really good match. I would not say it was the greatest match ever, but it surprised me because I was set to be disappointed, and that might be why I enjoyed the match. But it was a really good match. What I loved was the storytelling involved, because obviously Randy's come at it saying, I am a better wrestler. But then ultimately, for those who don't know the results, Randy took the win, but ultimately took the win by resorting to shady non-wrestling tactics. So he didn't prove himself to be the better, although he took the win, he didn't prove himself to be the better wrestler, because we saw low blows and the ended with the punt kick, which we don't see very often these days. So I really like the way they done that, where Edge pushed him to the point that he had to resort to shady tactics. So technically, he may have won the match, but he didn't come out looking the better wrestler. I like the way they sort of booked that. But overall, it was a decent match. I'm not sure how I feel about whether it was a better match than the backstage, because this was purely in the ring, but I don't know whether it was better than their Mania match. I don't know how you feel about it, Carl, or whether you have an opinion on that. I'm still on the fence as to which one was a better match.
Yeah, I think I still feel this one was too long, which was my main criticism of the one at 36.
Yep.
It was fucking too
long. This was technically shorter than the one at 36.
Yeah, I was just wondering that then. So, it didn't feel as long. So, the fact it wasn't, then that does make sense. But look, there was no way in a million years when you hype something up as the greatest wrestling match ever, knowing the matches that have taken place, your Bret Hart and your Mr. Perfect, your Savage and Steamboat, you could go on. You could literally go on forever of all the different incredible matches. There was no way. And like when they kind of caveated it at the start with, we've enhanced your match viewing experience with piped in audio and 87 camera cuts. Like straight away, you're like, okay, why do this? But look, the match itself was okay. It started off as like a wrestling match. It was chain holds. It was, very old school kind of mat wrestling, things like that. And then it just kind of, I don't even want to say evolved. It devolved into like finisher spamming. Like they were throwing rock bottoms and pedigrees and
and then
shit
doing
like
that classic
no
like
reason.
do each other's finisher kind of shit as well.
Yeah, and it was just, I don't know. It was okay, but I know a lot of people, similar to your point where you're like, well, is it just because they feared the worst and it actually turned out to be much better than what they feared? I don't know, but some people loved this match and were like, oh, it was like the best thing ever, but it wasn't.
This is the problem. It wasn't the greatest match ever. You can't. There's no two ways about it. This will go down as a good match. It might even go down as like maybe one of the matches of the year.
It wasn't even the goodest match ever.
Do you know what? Here's the thing, right? This, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, but by the sounds of it, I'm suggesting that you don't even think this was the greatest match of the week.
No chance it was. Like that SmackDown match between AJ and Bryan was, a match of the year candidate. This was it was a solid pay-per-view match.
And
I don't know why people are getting bent out of shape about it. It was literally just a finisher spamming kind of fucking, and as you said, it was the whole point of it, which, good storytelling or not, was, this is built up as the greatest wrestling match ever. They went from mat wrestling, technical, all that good stuff to start, to finisher spamming, to a brawl, to fucking dirty tactics with low blows and punt kicks. And it was like, well, okay, yeah, sure, it had bits of everything. There's a bit of storytelling there, but yeah, it wasn't great. It really wasn't great. It was fine. It was a solid pay-per-view match, but like, it definitely, if this was on a Raw or something, then amazing. But it still wouldn't have been as good as the fucking SmackDown match.
I've been lamenting on it, and I think I'd have preferred this match at Mania and nothing else.
Yeah,
I'd have preferred the match itself to the Mania match. But we didn't need both. I still maintain that we don't need both. But I think if I had to pick one, I would pick this match over the other one.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think the biggest kind of downfall with this, which we already alluded to, we knew was the hard sell of it all, is how do you take a backstage fucking absolute mammoth of a beating kind of match where you can literally kill the other person if you want to, and reframe that to say, well, but it's not a wrestling match.
Yeah.
So the whole thing fell backwards, and that's why it just didn't work. Like, to your point, if this was the Mania match, and even if they then would have followed up with like okay, well, you may beat me, but I could beat you in a street fight or whatever, like that would have made more sense.
Yeah, it would, because like, imagine that actually already writes itself in it. Randy's going, yeah, you managed to beat me in the ring because there are rules, but if there was no rules, you wouldn't, that sort of thing. And then you go, okay, this makes a bit of sense, but they did it the wrong way around. But no, for me, this would have been an incredible match, a great comeback for Edge, and apparently injury sideline for Edge as well. But this would have been great for Mania for me, and I still don't want to see them go up against each other more than once. That was it. He should have gone. For me, I would have loved to have seen Drew versus Edge somehow by now. Don't get me wrong, it probably would have just been to solidify Drew as a legitimate champion, but I still would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, the money match is Rollins and Edge, because especially in this Messiah gimmick, of you could have someone to say, like, he's been the one who's holding down the fort this whole time while he's been away. He's the leader now. It doesn't need the likes of Edge. Well, like, it writes itself, and like, from a stylistic matchup standpoint, like, those two have never faced each other before. They're very similar-ish ring styles. Like, it's a money match, but I just worry now that, what if Edge doesn't come back from this?
I know,
and
that's
they've wasted his return on Orton.
Two Orton matches and done. Like, that would be the biggest worry. I sincerely hope, by the sounds of the injury, he'll be back. I don't know how soon, but I don't think this will put him out. But when you're just like, for fuck's sake, like you say, the Rollins thing wrote itself. I mean, people like proper, like, everyone was all over Edge coming back, so Rollins straight away could have took umbrage to it. Like, Edge is the false prophet. People worship him when they shouldn't. All this kind of stuff. They could have just gone straight into it. They didn't even really need to. They could have, like, had the Orton Edge match. They could have had Edge celebrating on Raw or coming out and having a talk on Raw, and Rollins interrupting, and we could have gone straight into it. Wouldn't have mattered. But no, there's what we get. And again, it was a good match. I don't want to discredit it too much, but this was the match we should have had at Mania.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. So I as a rating for Backlash, 2.5. It was okay. There was more misses than hits, if I'm honest, but 2.5 because there was some good match.
Yeah, 1.5 for me.
Really? Wow.
Wow. Yeah, really, like Apollo Andrade, really good match. Women's triple threat, not asked. Jeff Sheamus, awful. Asuka and Nia Jax, awful. Strowman, awful. Drew and Bobby, okay. Profits Raiders, fucking quadruple awful. Edge and Randy, decent. So
yeah,
me,
fucking good point, that.
For me,
I'm lowering mine to a 2.
For me, Edge and Randy give it a 1, and Apollo and Andrade give it a 0.5. The rest of it was shite.
Right, there you go. A solid pay-per-view. And that is This Week in Wrestling. So that's everything this week. We've done it all in a confusing order for myself, but we've done it all. So we'll be back next week with another This Week in Wrestling. I think I've committed us to talking about our best Royal Rumble match. You've already got yours in mind, Carl. I'm going to scour all the previous Royal Rumbles and decide what that is. So that'll be our segment for next week. Join us for that one. And more news and rumours and anything I might make up and decide is a fact. Such as, did you know AJ Styles is an anti-vaxxer? Madness. I know, right?
Find out how CM Punk responds to that next week.
But until then, guys, we will see you all next week.
Yeah, have a good one.